Hello and welcome to the Business Interview. I'm Rebecca Bowering. A French internet champion, that's the name Viadeo has earned for itself. The world's second largest professional social network connects job seekers and headhunters in over 220 countries. It's the main player not just in France but in China, succeeding where Twitter and Facebook have failed. My guest this week is Viadeo founder and chief executive Dan Sefati. Thanks very much for being with us here on the Business Interview. So many of our viewers have probably heard of your big US rival, LinkedIn, of course. What's different about Viadeo? What's your unique selling point?
I think it's the approach and the vision we have of this business in different countries. LinkedIn has a very American Silicon Valley approach, I would say one-size-fits-all approach when they get to a market, saying one platform, one product, we global, this is it. We try to have this multi-local approach. Meaning that we try to cater to the needs and to the specificity, to the cultural specificity of each country. And to give you an example, since the beginning, we were, Chinese people give their business card with two hands. In the US, your business card, you just throw it on the table and maybe say, catch it. And in France, you just forget it. So how do we translate this business relationship which are so different in a different approach in each country? And that's where I think Viadeo has been pretty much successful.
So it's about cultivating local knowledge. Let's come back to China again in a moment. Let's talk a little bit more about the site first.
Sure.
So you count about 200 million page views per month, which is an impressive figure. How do you monetize, though?
So we have three ways of monetizing. One is we have this freemium model, meaning you can use the website freely unless you want to do some specific actions, like, for example, knowing who consulted your profile. And for that, you need to pay a fee of which around 5 to 6 euros per month. This is one. Then we have the hiring solutions that we're offering to recruiters and who are going to pay to use these hiring solutions to find candidates for themselves or their customers if they're headhunters. And three, we have the classic targeted advertising.
And what kind of profile do your users have? It's not just about finding a job, is it? There are other ways of using the site.
Absolutely, for members, yeah, sure. I mean, the job thing, the career management is maybe the easiest to grasp, right? And a lot of people join Viadeo because they think of this visibility that the website will give them, particularly towards headhunters or recruiters. But indeed, our big challenge is to try to go over that and to say, we have millions, tens of millions of users connected between themselves, in all professionals. How can we bring more value to these guys, helping them to make new connections, find people they didn't know before, using their contacts to approach new people, be it an entrepreneur, a salesman, whatever. So it's really more and more going over only career management.
I've just been looking at some images of Baidu, and of course there are several big social networking sites that are Chinese for the Chinese community. You've bucked the trend because you've come in from the outside, and your sort of offshoot company, Tianji, is the most popular social network for business people in China, 10 million users, which is quite a success. And you've managed to go, as I said earlier, where Facebook and Twitter have not managed to go. So in a nutshell, the secret to cracking this Chinese market, you mentioned local knowledge, but also was it the acquisition of a local player?
Yeah, I think we've before doing this deal with Tianji, we really studied what happened to many US companies. And the examples, I mean, you spoke about Facebook and Twitter, where there may be some political issues too, which preventing them to succeed. But it's true for Google, it's true for MSN, it's true for Amazon, so eBay, so many of these companies who failed in China. And we looked at it and we really thought that this local knowledge was all the more important in a country like China. So what we did is acquiring the local leader. That was in 2008. That was one. Two is giving them the right autonomy. I'm living now in China. It's been now almost a year I'm living there. I can tell you that out of 120 people there in Tianji, there are maybe 2 guys speaking English. So it's really local. It's run and managed by local people. And that's, I think, the key of our success in China.
And I can see why you need to learn Mandarin to help you along with that. It's a bit of a challenge,
Absolutely.
Isn't it? Now, as you say, you're based in Beijing, but of course your headquarters remain here in France.
Yeah.
Let's talk about this round of fundraising that you raised $32 million back in April, and part of that was thanks to France's Sovereign Wealth Fund, wasn't it? Do you think that France is having to invest in startups to keep them at home?
I think that essentially it's not about keeping them at home. I mean, that's fine, but it's essentially trying, and that the role, I think, of the FSI, which is to fill up a gap in the financing structure for French entrepreneurs in the tech industry. We're not bad for seed capital, what they call fools and families, right? Friends and families, or fools and families, I don't know. You know after. They're not bad also for these Series A, Series B of fundraising, which is the first 2 to 3 million euros, and then the third round, which would be maybe 5 to 10 million euros. But then there's a gap. And the idea of the FSI here, and I think that's very smart from the French government, is to say we have French champions. Very often, these French champions remain French players. How can we help these French champions to become worldwide champions? And I think the FSI chose Viadeo because of that capacity and this potential to really become a leading player on the global scene. And that's where you need bigger amounts. You were talking indeed, we just raised more than $30 million. You know that the biggest fundraising in the last 5 years in France for a tech company.
Congratulations.
I mean, on one side it's nice, but on the other side it's also sad. Because this is the kind of amount you see every month in the US. So that's where I think the FSI has a very important role to play for the French. Obviously, behind that, they also want to keep the companies, as you said, the fact that we are headquartered in France, that our R&D is in France.
That to remain the status quo,
that's also
they?
important for them, absolutely. That's also important.
And you were setting out in the early 2000s as a web entrepreneur. Was it more difficult in those days than it is now, do you think?
No, I don't think so. I think it's just different, and it goes always cycles. So in the last even 5 years, I mean, it's been like when we made our first fundraising in 2005, end 0506 or beginning 06, we had like 10 term sheets from different potential investors interested in investing. It was crazy at the time. We were just coming after a period where nothing happened. And then 3 years after, in 2008, 2009, fortunately, we were already a profitable company. Because if we would have had to raise, remember, during the financial crisis, I mean, no way we could have done it. And today, again, I mean, the winds are pretty good, and how long will it last? I don't know.
Now, LinkedIn, to bring up your big competitor again.
Who's that?
I know you want to forget about them. They became a public company last year, of course.
Yeah.
And there was talk that you guys might do the same, but you shelved those plans. Is that because you worried about a social media IPO bubble, citing Facebook, or was it for very different reasons?
No, essentially the reason was not at all about the bubble. I mean, and really, it was beginning 2011. We had this board meeting, remember very well, where we talked about this opportunity of going public. We have all bankers, all the big names coming to us and suggesting, this IPO, not only because it was the time of the social media, but I don't know if you remember, beginning 2011, there were also all these Chinese companies going public. And with our Zhenzhen went public, Caixin went public, gaming and social network in China. So we really had everything to go public. It was an internal decision not to go public because we wanted to keep on focusing on growth. And there's no way that when you have the pressure of the market, you need to put more focus on profitability. You need to look at your EBITDA every day. You have a more, let's say, short-term view, right, of your business. It's a quarterly view. And we wanted to keep this possibility and this flexibility to keep on growing, focusing on grabbing market shares, reinforcing our positions in these emerging markets where we are. And that the consequence of that was this fundraising that we just did. We said, let's rather make another round, private round, big one, to give us the resources to keep on growing, and the IPO subject, I guess, will come back on the table in maybe 2 to 3 years, I don't know.
We're just running out of time. A quick final question. The social networking space has become pretty crowded. How do you, as a company, ensure that you stand out from the crowd, that you go the distance, that you don't become a kind of MySpace or Friendster? And most importantly, given that you're in number 2 position, that you catch up and overtake LinkedIn? Because I guess there's a real hunger when you're the number 2 to, reach that top spot and knock them off. So what's your strategy?
Yeah. Maybe let me answer that first. I think for us, it's not very important to look at the global position worldwide between LinkedIn and Viadeo. I mean, they're number 1. They have 100+ million members. We have 40+ million members. We don't really care about that, considering our strategy of being multi-local. For us, what is important is being number 1 in the countries we care about. And we don't try to be global. It's true, as you were saying before, we are in 220 countries, but essentially there are 10 countries we're really interested in, or 10 areas we're really interested in. And this is where we want to be number 1. China, of course, is one of them. Africa is another one. Russia, we have big ambitions. Southern Europe, we've got big ambitions. So and in these countries, we want to be number 1. The global figures is not so interesting for us. So it's also what's fun in this business, right? It's changing so quickly. You were speaking about Friendster and MySpace very recently, right? And after their bad IPO debut, people are even questioning now about Facebook.
Yes,
Will it last?
Yeah.
So
who would have thought of it?
Absolutely. So I mean, obviously, I don't have a definitive answer on that. I'm just saying that I think that the main thing in this business is being always open, curious, flexible, adaptable, and that's what we're trying to do on a day-to-day basis.
Certainly exciting times for Viadeo. Many thanks to you, Dan Serfati, for
Thank
coming
you very
in
much.
and speaking to us here on the Business Interview. Thank you very much for watching this edition. Do stay tuned to France 24. Bye-bye.